Jillian Pensavalli, before we get to the show, we got a breaking news.
Patrick Hines, what is it?
Okay, fam. We have new merch. I mean, we have new merch. We've got new merch.
And this isn't a repeat.
No.
An audible typo. No. I know we just had merch. We have more new merch.
It's such amazing new stuff. We've got a blanket for the first time ever. We've got candles. We've got long sleeve t-shirts. We've got sweatshirts. We've got hoodies.
Yeah, the candles smell amazing. And I have to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. We just did a photo shoot for it. So we wore every piece of merch.
Yep.
So cozy.
I mean,
the long sleeve shirts.
I know.
I'm like, you feel like Ariana Grande.
It's really true. It's really beautiful.
It's the sleeves reference, everyone. It's the sleeves.
I got it. So here's the deal, fam. This is what Steve wants me. I'm reading this to you verbatim because if I don't, my husband will murder me. So the Patreon pre-sale starts Wednesday, November 13th. That's tomorrow. If you're listening to this the day this comes out at 1 o'clock Eastern. So what's going to happen, Patreon fam, you're going to get an email around that time with a code for access to 10% off. So it's a 10% discount code. You're going to get that about the time tomorrow when the merch goes on sale.
Fantastic.
General sales open for everybody on Monday, November 18th. So Patreon, you've got a little bit less than a week for it all to yourself.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't all sell out.
Yeah.
If it doesn't sell out, then on Monday the 18th, it goes live for everybody.
Great. The holidays are right around the corner.
Correct. And also, if you join Patreon anytime in that window, you'll get the discount code sent to you right away
Even
as
better.
well. Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah. So that's it, fam. You know the deal. Go to our website, truecrimeobsessed.com. Click on the merch link. That's where everything is. We'll put a link in the show notes for all of it. I don't know, and happy holidays.
Yeah, we're just so excited to share this. It feels like we're all doing it together. So we hope you
100%.
love it. We had so much fun at our photo shoot. It was great. So just enjoy
Get yourself a dopey garbage blanket is all I'm saying.
Yeah, when I said the holidays, buy gifts for yourself. I'm a very big supporter of buying yourself presents on a regular basis.
All right, we love you. Now to the show.
We love you.
Girl, can I ask you a question before we start?
Oh, God.
What the hell did I just watch?
I don't know.
What the hell did I just
really?
watch?
I think
it's good.
Exploitative. It's odd. Something's off.
Something is off.
We didn't get the full story here.
I agree.
Right?
She agrees with you.
Okay.
Hi, Jillian Pensavalli.
Hello, Patrick Hines.
Hey, fam, if you're hearing this the day this comes out, guess what? Our next drag bingo is this upcoming Friday, 7 o'clock with the amazing Schwa.
Oh, what? Fantastic.
November 15th. We not just, but we a little while ago did our Halloween, which is in the future for us as we're recording this, so we haven't done it yet, but I know what I'm wearing for my costume.
I know, me too.
The drag bingo is so fun. It's just one of the great things about being on the Patreon.
Yeah.
Over 400 full ad-free bonus episodes. What else is over there, girl?
Everyone's welcome. We do ad-free bonus episodes of the docs on the regular feed, and then we do the long-form docs. We're in Mastermind right now. We're doing Black Widower. We're doing that Look Into My Eyes thing, which is absolutely insane.
What was the one with the guy with all the kids? The man with 1,000 kids?
The man with 1,000 kids.
So wild.
That fucking racist white supremacist. I hated him.
Horrible. We do so many cults over there. We're talking to our friend Robbie the other day. All of our cults are basically on Patreon.
Well, Love has what Robbie was like, can you move the calendar? I know I can ask this once, and I'm asking it for Love Has One, and he was 100% right.
He was at my house the other day. We remember when you guys moved the calendar around for me?
He was absolutely right to do it.
Anyway, patreon.com/truecrimeobsessed. Go check it out. There's so much stuff over there. It's a really fun place to be.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Girl, I'll ask you again. What are we talking about today?
Jailbreak, Love on the Run on Netflix.
Okay.
You got this older woman who's lonely in the jail, and you got this man.
He was facing a capital murder charge, and she wanted to try to save him.
It's a disgusting romance novel, is what it is.
Every woman wants to feel loved.
My queen, my everything.
Of course, I could kiss you now. So bad.
We consider Casey White a very dangerous person.
We're out flying on our adventure.
Nobody knows nothing unless you say something.
I thought, oh my God, she trusted him. Vicky, what have you done? Vicky devoted her life to her job.
I said, when are you going to retire? And she said, soon. And when I go, I'm going out with a bang.
Casey White is a romancer.
You know how much I love you.
Maybe chill there for a while.
Vicky and Casey left the jail this morning, and they haven't came back yet.
There's no way they're going to pull off a stunt like this and live happily ever after.
Now, the trailer for this is very different from the documentary.
Oh, I didn't watch the trailer.
The trailer makes it seem like everyone from the beginning was like, this is outrageous. But then by the end of it, it's like cute Taylor Swift's Love Story, Taylor's version. I'm like, this is not a love story.
Oh my God, the way that they want this to be Romeo and Juliet in the end, it's wild.
But in the trailer, it seems like everyone is kind of like us, like incredulous. I'm like, what? But no.
I know. There's so much to get. Okay, well, let's just dive in. minute.
Okay.
The first thing we get is on-screen text. It says, the phone calls you're about to hear were recorded between 2020 and 2022. This is the first time the calls have been shared publicly. And we're learning all about Vicky White. She was a nurturer. She was always putting other people ahead of her.
Right. But here's the thing about prison calls.
Yeah.
They say this call is not private.
Right.
It will be recorded and maybe monitored. Everyone on earth, especially when you work at a prison, which we'll learn Vicky does, everyone knows that prison calls are recorded.
And Vicky works at the prison. She's like the head honcho at this prison. But the other thing that is confusing to me here is that like they also all have contraband cell phones. So I don't know what of these were people, I don't know. I'm very confused about the phone situation in prison.
I have a lot of questions about that too.
Okay.
So we're in Florence, Alabama.
Lauderdale County is in the heart of the Bible Belt. Just that small hometown feel that everybody loves that lives in this area.
We're friendly people. I mean, I know everybody thinks that further you get down in South, you're rednecks, but we're not.
They say everyone in this part of the world is very nice and friendly. And I'm like, they all seem very nice and friendly.
Yeah.
Is my family welcome there?
Except for
I don't know.
the handful of inmates that we meet.
I know.
Woof. There's one of them I like. One of them is, but the other one I'm like, why should I give a shit about this guy's point of view?
I agree.
So it's ridiculous.
This one's going to be a journey, fam.
Like, I just don't understand. I'm so confused by the whole thing.
I know. This is a story about Vicky, the woman who works at the prison, and Casey, one of the inmates, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to meet a lot of the people who worked with Vicky, and they all love her to pieces.
Yeah. We meet Chantel. She's a former administrative assistant. She's the one who's like, Vicky was a good girl until she wasn't, and then she was a bad girl, and she knew no bounds.
And she loved being a bad girl.
She loved it.
Joyce wants us to know that people down there are not all rednecks.
Yeah, just because they're relaxed and laid back doesn't mean we're not playing with a full deck, she says. She goes, no, we're soaking stuff in. Great, Joyce. I didn't say anything. Who hurt you, Joyce? Who's being mean?
Joyce, who hurt you?
We didn't say anything.
I know.
Now, are these people really friends with Vicky? Are they frenemies? Are they here to talk shit? A lot of them really enjoy talking shit about Vicky.
Let me just say this. They all work at the jail, and
The prison.
I keep getting in trouble for this.
But I'm just saying, it is an important distinction here.
Yes. They all work there, and that is one of those jobs where you are bonded for life when you work with these people. You need the people that you work with. It's a very hard environment to work with. People are saying that, we live in this cute little town, and then you go to work at the prison, and you're like, oh my God, human beings live like this. They treat each other
and the conditions are not great, everyone, by the way. So people are sleeping on what looks like tables. We get a ton of footage from inside the prison from all the cameras that they have all over the place. And it's just oh my God.
I know. It's really bad. And it's all about overcrowding. And is it we're just arresting too many people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a number one. But also this place is described as...
It is basically a temporary holding facility. You got people coming in for failing to pay a traffic ticket, and you got people coming in charged with capital murder. They may be sitting side by side in the booking room.
Or capital murder.
Right. And
why are these people in the same place?
But why are you being put in prison for not paying a parking ticket? You know what I mean? There's a whole chapter in my book about the 10 years of my life that I had about $10,000 in outstanding parking tickets. Could I have gone to prison for that?
Probably.
Oh my God.
I mean, I think at this point.
I know. They booted my car and took it away. I didn't even argue. I was like, bye, car.
Well, why are you getting so many tickets, though?
I don't know, girl. I do know, actually.
Don't put me in that position where I have to ask you the hard questions.
No, the reason was I kept parking it and then not moving it by the time you had to move it in the morning.
Them's the bricks, you know?
But true, I lived in a 6th floor walk up. Everyone in my life tried to talk me out of having the car. I would not be talked out of it.
Reason number 278, I do not own a car.
I know. I'm just saying, could I have gone to prison? That really scared the shit out of me.
You're white, so most likely probably not.
No.
They'd probably be like, oh, he's white, it's fine.
Pay your parking tickets, fam, and listen to your friends when they tell you that you live in a major city 1 block from the subway and you actually don't need a car.
Okay, great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But my question is more importantly, why are the murderers next to the parking ticket people in the holding room?
I couldn't agree more.
And we learned it doesn't smell like flowers, that's for sure.
Right.
People are threatening you, throwing urine at you, throwing feces at you. And it's just
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Can we stop with the throwing of the feces?
I would love it.
Can we do anything else?
I'd love to not have started in the first place.
I know. But if you're going to intimidate somebody, there are way better ways to do that.
Are there? I mean, that's a life ruiner for sure.
You know what? You make a very good... Maybe there aren't better ways to do it.
If that happens...
I know.
I would never not be thinking about it.
A bird shit on me the other day. I was dropping Daisy off at school.
That's good luck, right?
I got bird shit in the hair.
That's one of those things where it's you just have to tell someone it's good luck.
Because otherwise...
It's horrifying.
I know.
You had to go home and take a shower then.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Oh. After all these years, you
I
gotta
know.
just yes end
I
it,
know.
like with
I
your
did
whole
come to the office
chest.
and deal with it, but yeah,
Okay.
it was not a good thing.
Okay, great. So Vicky White, she worked there for 17 years.
Good question, because
Yeah.
the inmate, his name is...
Casey White, no relation.
Okay, thank you. No relation. It's not...
I'm making an assumption,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure
They
they would have
both
told us
have
if we're
this-
also dealing with incest. Like, Jesus Christ.
I know. But I also feel like they would have told us that there was no relation. It was just a weird thing that I noticed at the end. I was like, wait, they have the same last name.
No, I'm assuming that it's not.
Great.
But Vicky's in charge of day-to-day operations. So, like, we learn a lot of things about Vicky.
She was in charge pretty much of everything on the day-to-day operation side of it. The buck pretty much stopped with her.
That woman, she was one of the hardest workers I've ever met. 50 or 60 hours a week, easy. 6:30 every day, Monday through Friday. Then sometimes working on the weekends as well. If you had a question about anything, you call Vicky.
The buck stopped with her.
Yes, but I also want to say that she did this job for 17 years. Nobody stays in a job like that long. Like, she was really, really dedicated to the, and we'll learn, like, she had a really shitty, like, past couple of experiences in her life that, like,
for sure.
made her sort of turn to her job for, like, solace and family.
And not only was she a super hard worker, like if anything you needed, you called her, like the buck stopped with her. But we learned from everyone, inmates and coworkers, she treated everyone like a human being.
Yes.
And I just want to remind everyone here that, like, not everyone behind bars is like Jeffrey Dahmer level awful.
Of course.
You know, like, we have to remember that prisons are filled with people who aren't 1,000% awful 1,000% of the time.
Of course.
And I think that's, like, easy to forget, especially when
And
we're...
some of them didn't do anything.
Some of thousands,
You know what I mean?
tens of thousands
Yes,
of them didn't do anything. But some of them, like, didn't pay their parking tickets.
Right.
Some of them got...
It's just a screaming, crying gay boy in cell block number B or whatever because he didn't pay his parking tickets.
Like, we meet some former inmates. Like, one of them is a perfect example of someone who just, like, bad decisions led to this thing and now he's here.
Yes.
Tyler is not one of those people, I don't
Yes.
think. Tyler is a former inmate who was arrested for domestic violence and assault for violating orders of protection and gun charges. Why the fuck do I care what Tyler has to say?
He's also a former cop, so he gets thrown into prison where he is not safe.
Now, let me tell you, like, cops in prison, like, that is not a good thing to be as an incarcerated person.
No.
But my question is, like, what did he do?
I know.
Because cops don't really let cops go down for shit.
Yeah.
What happened?
I mean, domestic violence, like, he probably beat the shit out of his partner.
I mean, I looked up his record. Violating orders of protection,
Wow.
gun charges.
That's crazy. Like, that is really crazy behavior.
And I'm just saying, whatever you want to tell me, like, not all, whatever, but, like, cops protect their own.
Yes.
What did he do?
What
it
did he
takes
do?
a lot
Yeah.
for a former cop, because what he was doing
He's
was...
also young. He looks like he's 25 in this documentary.
Like, he explains, he worked at a prison before. He was doing riot response and shakedowns. He was like the last line. Like, this guy was pretty intense.
Yes.
What happened?
What happened? But, like, Vicky looked out for him. Like, he'll say later that she was like the mom he never had. She would, like, sneak him food. Like, she really cared.
Yeah. So then we meet Jorginho Lopez, who's a former inmate. Now, he was in for domestic violence in the 3rd degree. I looked that up. What that is harassing communications to anyone who could be a parent, a spouse, whatever.
Yes.
He explains.
I ended up at Lauderdale County Detention Center for domestic violence, 3rd degree. I was an alcoholic, and I told my dad I was going somewhere and he didn't want to give me the keys, so I go out there and slash the tires. I go in front of the judge. He puts me in jail for a whole year, and that's when I met Vicky White.
And instead of treatment, they send him to prison for a year. So it's this guy next to violent offenders. This is a guy who was in a bad way, inactive addiction,
and, like,
made a bad decision. Send the guy to treatment.
But, like, prison for a year? That's insane. A year?
And I don't know what led up to that, but I'm saying, like, this is an example of a guy, bad decisions led him here. He is not a violent offender.
No,
he slashed his dad's tires because he was hammered and was angry. Like, who hasn't been there?
And not only-
I'm not making light of it, I'm just saying.
Not only was he put into a prison with murderers, he was put into a cell with a murderer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's crazy.
Like, it's just something to remember. It struck me today how easy it is to forget that people like Jorginho can be in this situation.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. We also are, like, hearing from all of Vicky's coworkers, and they make this note. It's a small note, but on my second time watching it, I was like, that seems important. Her phone is ringing off the hook all the time. Her phone is just constantly blowing up.
Again, the buck stops with her. So big things, small things, phone calls, issues, problems. And she always answered the phone with a smile because because her coworkers are telling us, like, she wanted everyone to think that she was a superhero, cool, calm, and collected. But before she answered the phone, she's like, God damn it, what is it now? But then she's like, hi, Vicky, like, how may I help you?
You have never seen a better person at that than Pamela Ann Parker. My mother would, single,
I was like, Anderson?
poor, lesbian mother, recovering alcoholic, 4 kids, like just going bananas in the house all the time. Scream, Patrick Joseph! She would pick up the phone, hello, Parker residence.
Oh, hi, Cheryl.
And nothing in the world. Well, my mom's friends were all lesbian, so it was more like Brenda, Carla, Rhoda.
But she'd be like mad at Rhoda. Screaming about Rhoda. Rhoda would call, hey, Rhoda.
Totally. My mom was a maniac, but like she could answer the phone like it was the best day of the year.
We call that code switching.
Yeah.
I didn't invent that. Look it up on the internet. It's
Pam Parker.
So August 2020, 2 years before the escape, Casey White, again, no relation to Vicky White.
Yes.
This guy is a piece of shit. He's serving 75 years for attempted murder, along with a lot of other felonies. He's facing capital murder charges. He is described as a very dangerous person.
He's confessed to a murder that they're still investigating. So he's like facing, like he's going to go to prison he will be in prison for the rest of his life, if not the death penalty.
Now, before this, December of 2015.
Dispatch called and told me we'd had a home invasion and a shooting. Casey shot at his girlfriend and killed her dog. Casey then went next door. The neighbor next door said that Casey sticks a gun in his face, tells him that he needs his car keys, which he politely provided to Casey.
This piece of shit shot his girlfriend, killed her dog, holds up a neighbor at gunpoint, steals that neighbor's car, drives off, then tries to ditch the car, get a new car via carjacking. Let's add that charge. Ends up shooting another woman in the shoulder. The cops finally track him down. He's on a first-name basis with Mike the Sheriff.
He's waiting for Mike the Sheriff to get there before he will even do anything.
He's got 2 guns, Casey, the bad guy, 2 of them, and Mike's like, Casey, we're doing this again. Casey has shot 2 women, killed a dog, stolen 2 cars, held at least 1 person up.
And you can hear the way the cops are talking to him on the body cam footage, and they're like, come on, bro. Come on, like, put the gun down, bro. Nobody's going to die tonight,
Casey,
buddy.
we're not doing this again,
Come
man.
on.
Come on.
And then at the end of it all, he gives it all up for a soda. He just wants a soda pop.
Yeah. From Mike the Sheriff. So this is who we're dealing with here. Capital murder charges, the whole thing. We even hear he actually should be isolated because he's so dangerous, but he can't be because of overcrowding.
Yes. This guy is also 6'9", 300 pounds.
Yeah.
He is an absolutely enormous human being.
Yeah. He's in what they call the A1 cell for people that are there for violent, serious crimes.
Yeah.
That was Vicky's cell.
So I was really curious about this because Vicky's been at this for 17 years. A1 is where they put the murderers, like the real bad guys. This is, quote, Vicky's cell. And like the other...
Like you need her permission to put someone in that cell. That's what they mean.
And I can't speak to her motives or her frame of mind or what she's doing, but it seems like she takes care of these guys. Like she's trying to show them humanity is what it seems like she's trying to do.
Yeah. Now, Tyler from earlier with the domestic abuse, he is also in that cell.
Yes.
And he says that at one point there were 16 men in a cell that was supposed to house 8 people. But I'm like, this is still this isn't a parking ticket situation necessarily. Like you needed Vicky's approval to put someone in here, and it's for violent offenders.
It's just this whole 16 people in an 8-person cell thing, especially when they're the violent murderers.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that just going to lead to them just fucking killing each other?
It just becomes a bigger safety issue, I would think.
I mean, 100%. Like this doesn't make any sense to me.
0 sense. But this guy is also manipulative, as you have to be in prison.
Yes.
Really. You know, like nice when you want something, cruel when you don't.
Yes.
When you don't like the person. Like, you can't trust a single person in those 4 walls in prison. Like, you just can't.
No, but then we started hearing from the staff. So the nurse is here, and she's saying that, like, I had been warned to never be alone with this guy, this, like, 6'9", 300-pound killer. And then, like, all of a sudden he comes down to medical, and she's, like, charmed the pants off of her.
Because, like, the women here are telling us what it's like to be around male inmates.
Yes.
And they're saying,
I cannot imagine what that must be like on a daily basis.
No, and they're being manipulative, so they're trying to get attention, or they'll like, they're really good at reading you. So if you had like a fight with your spouse, or you do, like, they would try to compliment you. So one of them says,
as I opened up the cage door, Casey White was standing there, and he goes, Miss Renee? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, it's been 5 long years since I've touched a woman. Do you think I could get a hug? I said, hell no, you can't.
You can't cross that fine line. You don't want to be their enemy, but you can't be their friend.
You don't want to be their enemy, but you cannot be their friend.
Especially as a woman.
You have to have these boundaries.
But then we also learn that there are some corrections officers that are so desperate to be liked by the inmates that they're sneaking in contraband.
Of course.
And so Vicky, our other main character here, she took pride in her ability to like watch all the cameras.
She's a total narc.
Intercept the phone calls
Total
and
narc.
bust everybody. It was like her favorite thing to do.
Catching people with contraband. She loved it, like took pride in it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the inmates are starting to pick up on things between Vicky and Casey.
Yes. And now again, Casey's that 6'9", 300-pound monster.
The murderer. So like Casey in his jail cell would buy cards from commissary like for his mom or write letters to his lawyer, but then he'd ask for help spelling words like gorgeous.
Yes.
And you're like, why are you using that word to your lawyer?
But then also Vicky, like the head woman in charge of the jail, would come to their cell and Casey would be like, hey, Vicky, here's a letter for my mom. And it would just have his mom's name on it, but no stamp and no address.
Right.
You know, like
and
they're
then
not
she'd be
being
like,
slick at all.
Oh, I'll just put this in my pocket. Like the inmates are clocking all of this.
And they're also saying there's nothing to do. Like all we have to do is like watch what everybody's doing.
And
like,
you have to watch your back constantly.
Yes.
You have to know what everyone's doing, right? Like just
Yeah.
as a safety thing. But also as a worker in this prison, you also should be watching the inmates. So the inmates are clocking all of this. And apparently none of Vicky's coworkers are noticing anything suspicious at all.
You
so
know,
they say.
They all have to like, they're all trying to, I don't know, stay alive or whatever. They're talking about how close they all are. One of the colleagues explains this prank they pulled on Vicky where they had her open a box and a fucking real spider jumped up and ran up her arm. Do you know how quickly I would throw that person into cell block A1?
They're all fired.
All in with the murderers. You live there now.
Like, why?
If you pull a prank where a spider crawls up my arm, death penalty.
No.
No. Okay, thank you. You're looking very serious.
Have you ever seen that video of like 16-year-old Taylor Swift going to some school dance and she's wearing this big like cupcake poofy dress?
No.
And she's like, hey, y'all, and just starts screaming because there's a spider this big on this like beautiful poofy white dress.
No.
And she's just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And like no one's moving the spider and it's enormous.
No one is rescuing Taylor Swift from this spider.
Oh my God, oh my God. It's like, that's accurate. What do? You're in a car. You can't leave.
Oh my
Someone
God.
thought that was a funny prank for Vicky.
Yeah. Not funny.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch.
So here's the thing about Vicky and her social life. She was 56, but everyone is here to say she liked him young. And when you maybe had a younger husband or younger boyfriend, she's like, you do you, girl.
Yes.
She was really encouraging. She was just a cougar.
But Vicky was a private person, so I've never seen Vicky with a man. Never.
I didn't even think that she even dated.
I remember when I started dating my husband is several years younger than me. And I told Vicky, girl, he's young. She's like, ain't a thing wrong with that. Do you? And then she tells me that she's juggling 2 men at the time.
She's like juggling 2 men. And then she's saying that like she's showing them Christmas cards that she got. And one of them, she's showing her colleagues at the prison this card from a boyfriend with 2 $100 bills in it that are folded in a way that only an inmate would do.
He's in cell block A1.
Right. So the colleagues are like, that came from an inmate. I'm not going to ask any questions,
And then they'll say throughout, there were no signs at all.
No signs. I
Meanwhile,
saw nothing.
sign number 1 is that she's giddy but won't tell you why.
Yes.
And the cards she's getting are wrapped up in a way that only inmates wrap. Okay.
Right.
All right, let's not ask any questions.
I mean, I guess I will say that, like, you would never think of Vicky. Like, she's not going to break the rules.
Well,
you know what I
do
mean?
you say, even, like, I can't even think of an example, like, with us on the outside. But if I would say, like, that is so weird because that's how this person did this one thing. I would be like, that's so weird that Steve gave you that because that's like...
Well, you know better than to trust anybody too much. You
That's
know what I mean? Like, you're
I'd
a
ask
special
you.
case. You absolutely would.
I would just be like, that's so crazy. I'm not saying it's a prison thing, but I would say, like, that reminds me, the only way I know I've ever seen a thing wrapped like that is when my whatever did it.
No, you're absolutely right. And, like, I
Because
can't...
not even it's a suspicious thing.
Yeah.
It would just remind me of something odd. And then I've done that to you 1,000 times.
A million
about
times.
completely innocent things, and I cannot think of a single
And I'm
example
like,
right now.
I don't know. How does she know? How does she know?
I know. And you're just like, no, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. It's like, what?
Well, but she's also going to parties at, like, sex toy stores.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, great.
Well, but right now we get our first recorded phone call between the two of them.
Oh, God. These are just brutal.
My queen, my everything. I know you're a couple years older than I am. I did not Jailbreak. I promise you're smoking fucking cigarette. And I flip back. You will never get too old. You will always be my queen.
Casey is telling Vicky how smoking hot she is. She's such a hot cougar. And I love when people are hot for each other.
Of course.
Like, be hot for each other, but
Yeah.
this guy's a murderer.
Yes. I also don't want to hear it. Be hot for each other, but I don't want to listen to it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Unless it's Pam and Tommy.
Unless it's Pam.
You
which
loved that.
I only watched that
I
video
know.
47
Everyone
times.
was doing it. Nobody
you know
knew.
what I mean?
Nobody knew.
If I watched it any more than 112 times, I can't imagine that I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know? That's all.
Okay.
I still regret it.
Yeah, well, knowing what we know now.
Knowing what we know now, for sure.
And you weren't watching for Pam.
You had to remind me she was in
I
it.
know.
You know what I mean?
That's wild.
I mean, you know that Tommy is on OnlyFans? You can see, like, he is on, like, legitimately on OnlyFans.
Really?
Yeah. Should we move on?
We should. But we really hear, like, the love bombing or the sex bombing from Casey. Like, you'll always be my queen. You're so smoking hot.
And it's, like, so obviously manipulative. But if you are a person who is being manipulated, it's because you need to hear it and you're not hearing the manipulation.
Again,
you know?
mutually beneficial. Like, they're feeding each other.
No one's ever thinking they're going to make a documentary about this someday.
Well,
you know what I mean?
When every conversation is recorded, I have more questions, but we'll get to that later.
But also, when you're basically the prison warden helping the guy break out, how can you think they're not going to make a documentary
right, the
about
buck
this someday?
stops with you,
Absolutely.
Vicky. So, Vicky...
Because you know she goes home and watches all the true crime shit on Netflix and then listens to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because she basically says as much later. We'll get to that call. But Vicky suddenly, like, has all these big plans for her retirement. Her retirement's coming up.
And, you know, we would always be like, oh, Vicky, you're not going nowhere. You're not leaving the jail.
I said, when are you going to retire? And she said, soon, girl, soon. And when I go, I'm going out with a bang. Just like that. And I said, girl, you going to cuss them all out on the way out the door? And she said, I'm going out with a bang.
I'm going to go out with a bang. Like, just you wait. I have big, big plans for my retirement. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but, like, I have a plan. I'm freaking Vicky.
Yes.
Like, I've earned this.
And, like, nobody's done that job as long as she has. But, like, she doesn't have a date plan. And then all of a sudden, April 28th, she shows up with her retirement paperwork and hands it in for the next day.
Effective immediately. And everyone's like...
Listen, you want to talk about ZipRecruiter? You need somebody now. This is what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
So everyone is shocked.
Yeah.
They cannot believe it. And so they're like, okay. It's like 5:01 on the 28th. Like, here are my papers, effective immediately. And then, like, the next day is a Friday, April 29th. Yeah. It's a pretty typical day.
Can I just say, like, I'm sorry, that is a really shitty thing to do.
It's incredibly
You're
shitty.
not going to give 2 weeks notice at least?
Especially if the buck stops with you.
Yes.
You know she doesn't want to train anybody. Like,
right.
And we'll get into, like, this is all going to click in a second, everybody.
Yes.
But yeah, like, on its surface, it's like, I thought
know.
you took pride in your job. Don't you want to pass it along to someone who's going to do the job that you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
well, a million. And, like, you want to, like, set your colleagues up for success?
100%.
You know?
So Friday, April 29th, 2022, there's one thing you never say in this line of work.
Oh,
and
my
that
God.
is, this looks like it's going to be an easy day. Someone said it, and it jinxed the whole freaking thing.
It jinxed everything. That's why we're here.
So it's a pretty typical day, except for one thing. Some people were out of town for an academy graduation, so they're a little bit short-staffed today.
There would normally be 11 deputies. Today, there are 5.
And at the same time, 32 inmates are being transferred to court. So it's, like, pretty typical yet, which is odd because it's like, okay, so for your last day, you want some activity, you want to be short-staffed. Like, don't you want to celebrate with all of your dear friends?
Exactly. It's almost as though there's something happening behind the scenes.
Like, half the staff wouldn't be around,
Right.
and now, okay, nothing gets by her, remember?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Totally.
And also that day, Vicky's super distracted.
They have, like, a little going away party at 9 a.m. in the break room. And, like, you would think after 17 years, today's it, girl. Like, you're sailing off into the sunset and, like, you'd be bubbly and happy, not Vicky.
We went to the break room. She cut her cake. Everybody hugged, the whole retirement thing. But she just seemed more quiet than usual.
And I'm like, okay, maybe she's like me and just not good at goodbyes.
She's actively not making eye contact with people.
Right.
It's very odd.
Yes.
So by 9:30, Vicky, back to work, everyone. Fuck this retirement party. Back to work. We're wasting time. Vicky needs one of the inmates, Casey, to be brought up to booking and, quote, shackled. So just like normal, he was taken to exactly where she wanted him and left there, just like they've done a million times before. We see, again, there are cameras everywhere.
We see all of this.
Vicky and Casey get in a car together and drive off.
No, she puts them in the back like you would put an inmate or whatever. She gets into the front and they drive off. Like, on the surface, this video looks normal. They're going to explain to us how not normal this video is in a minute.
But at first, I'm like, they're just leaving and going in the car. Like, it's weird.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, her coworker texts her and says, hey, I'm transporting an inmate who's here because he strangled his wife. I'm alone with him.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, like text me when you get home vibes.
Yes.
Like, I'm just letting you know, I'm like, if you don't hear from me in like 5 minutes, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, this is who I'm with, just a safety
Can
thing.
we just have a policy where nobody is alone with a fucking killer?
I know.
Can we just have a policy?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Especially someone who like actively kills women.
Right.
That would be wonderful.
That'd be wonderful.
Now, Vicky never responds to her. And this to me seems like that's just something that the women do. Like there's no protocol in place to be like, I'm a woman here with someone who strangles women.
Yes,
like,
right.
There's, that to me feels like how I always say to Natalie, text me when you get home.
Yes,
That just feels like girlhood,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So Vicky never responds to her. And that's something Vicky would be like on it.
Always.
She knows everything.
Yes. So now it's 11:30, right?
Hours are going by.
And one of the things they do have in place at this jail is that when you take an inmate out, there's like a name, like a magnetic name tag on the door to the cell.
When you take an inmate out of the cell, you turn their name tag sideways so you know that they're out of the cell. Casey's name tag was still sideways. That's when we kind of brought it up to some other people and started conversing about it like, hey, it's been a little bit. Where are they at?
We're going to keep our eye on it. We're not worried yet, but this is something to watch for.
But then they're not hearing from her.
Yeah.
And remember, she's picking up her phone. She's constantly like,
right. Phone
she's
is
just
blowing up always.
Not responding. She's out later. And now it's all hands on deck.
It's 3:00 in the afternoon and the name tag is still sideways.
It's like lights and sirens. They put on a bolo, be on the lookout. This guy's armed and dangerous because they think Vicky's in trouble.
Right. And so they go to the courthouse and they search every room of the courthouse because that's where Vicky said they were taking him. He's not there.
No.
And so now it's a go.
And we're go going. And they find the car.
Yeah.
They find the car that
the
Vicky
patrol car,
took. And they realize almost instantly that whatever happened, Vicky was involved.
And the reason they know this is because they open the back seat, they find the handcuff key, they find Casey's jail-issued shoes, and they're like, he's literally too big to have crawled through the seat divider and too big to have crawled out the window.
Yeah, the window isn't shattered.
Right. And so, like, Vicky would have had to have let him out. They also say they know that he doesn't have access to a gun.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he had a gun on her and made her let him out. Like, she's involved in this.
She got out of the car, opened the door.
Yes.
Unhooked the handcuffs or whatever you call it. And, like, she's in on this.
And one of the investigators says she's turned a monster loose onto the streets. What's going to happen now?
And see, when things like that happen, it also can affect the safety of everyone in prison because then it's like there's shit going on outside. Is there a riot? Are people going to react in the prison?
Of course.
Because that's like a very vulnerable position for the correctional officers to be in.
Yes.
There's problems. The inmates are going to seize on that, right?
Of course. I mean, and especially on a day when they're short-staffed,
This
you know?
is what I mean.
Yes.
So, and that's also, it's like, if you think about the domino effect of what she did, really, she
Right.
put a lot of people in danger.
100%. So Renee, one of her colleagues, gets into the camera system for the jail. This is wild. She said she's watching Vicky's every move from that morning to see it. Now, again, it just looks like Vicky going out to the car with an inmate, but she sees it. And she's like, oh my God. And everyone's like, what? What do you see? What do you see that we're not seeing?
Look at the video. Always, you have to be behind the inmate. You could see her fingers, how they just glided through. Vicky was doing something that she would fuss about. And when I seen that Casey was behind her, I thought, oh my God, she trusted him. Vicky, what have you done?
Oh my God, she trusted him.
She trusted him.
Because to let him walk, like, oh my, whatever they're doing together.
Yes.
She's not forced to do it. It's
Nope.
not like he whispered to her, I have a bomb on my person. Like, no, there's none of that.
Which is, it's so interesting to me that, like, she couldn't carry the charade for another 60 seconds. You know, because my thing is, other people in real time in the hallway, we see people on the video seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
We see people seeing her walking in front of the inmates. Somebody in the moment could have caught it and been like, whoa, Vicky, what's going on here?
And we'll learn later, but I'll say it here. Because it was Vicky, it didn't matter.
Nobody questioned
People
her.
said, that kind of looked weird, but if Vicky's doing it, it must be okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's how she got away with a lot of the stuff she got
It's
away
just like,
with.
she's going to start getting sloppy very quickly, and, like, this is kind of where it starts.
And it's kind of like, what do they call? Oh, like senioritis. Like, she
Yes.
put in her resignation. She's
Yes.
out the door. She kind of stopped caring because they've been doing this for years.
Uh-huh.
So everyone's like, Vicky? Like,
No one can believe it.
No one can believe it. And now it's day one of the manhunt and the investigation.
Yes. So a team of deputies are quickly sent to Vicky's house. Her mom walks up, and they learn that Vicky's been living with her parents. We're going to learn later that Vicky has sold her house. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But she's, like, living with her parents. This is a shock to everybody. The cops tell the parents, like, girl, your daughter helped an inmate escape from prison today. And the parents are in shock. They cannot believe it.
And because the thing about that, too, that also just, like, is an explosion that keeps going off.
Yeah.
You can't do this overnight.
Right.
Because then the first question is, how long
Yeah.
have they been planning this?
Yes.
It has to be a long time. She can't just be like, he looks extra cute today.
Uh-huh.
We're going to bail. Like, that's not how this works.
No.
So then you think, I thought I knew her. Who is she really?
Well, but then it gets even more confusing because the parents give them permission to search the house. They go right to Vicky's room and they find all of her stuff. They find her purse, her driver's license, her credit cards. And like, it's starting to click to everybody that Vicky knows how to do this. That like, of course she didn't take her phone. She didn't take her credit card. She didn't take her wallet. She can't use any of it because she knows how they track people like this.
And this is when we learn about the burner phone.
We cross-referenced that phone number to Casey's prison calls. We discovered that between November of 2020 all the way up until February of 2022, there was over 1,000 phone calls between Vicky and Casey.
1,000 calls.
All of the lies and bullshit and deception, all of the people she put in danger every second of those 2 years.
We also learned that Vicky cleared out her checking account. She had like a ton of money in her checking account. It's all gone.
It's all gone. My question is, all of these phone calls are recorded. Is she using an alias? Is no one at the prison hearing these calls and putting this together?
I know.
Like,
Right.
the inmates knew, the coworkers didn't.
And they're like, she's not talking in code. Like, she's saying, in April, we're going to be together. In April, everything is going to be
Here's
better.
what I did today to help move the plan forward. The only thing I can think of, which might be the case, is that she was the gatekeeper of the calls.
Yes.
So she kind of made it that, like, I'll listen to all the calls and I'll flag it, and then, Cheryl, you deal with it if I find something. But also, on the other hand, too, like, all of the danger that she did and all the things she did wrong, like, she also is possibly very much in danger. Who's to say this guy didn't manipulate the shit out of her? He's a dangerous, violent guy because once he doesn't need her anymore, what's going to happen to the warden?
And that's what they're all saying. They're like, she doesn't understand. He's just using her. She's going to be dead in 2 days.
Right. And that could go either like right or wrong.
Yeah.
That is a very real possibility.
Yeah. So they call in everyone. They call in the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, the Alabama law enforcement. The U.S. Marshals lead the manhunt.
And so we learn about more things she says on the calls.
Yeah.
And this is why it has to be that she was the one listening to all of them.
It must be.
Because she says, oh, you can't Google anything.
Yeah.
You can't use cell phones because of cell towers. All of the cars that we have at this prison have GPS in them.
And she's saying this to Casey in trying to explain to him like how difficult this kind of prison break situation is going to be.
And how much patience you have to have.
Yes.
And she had it. Like she had the patience until the very last minute.
Can you imagine going to bed? How do you keep the secret? I can't keep any secret, but I like, how do you keep this secret for 2 years?
I think because in her mind, she was in love and it was fun and they were going to like run off into the sunset together. I think you have to get yourself to that point.
I do have a hard time imagining that she actually believes she was going to get away with this.
I agree. But I think it's like sexy and hot and fun and dangerous and wrong.
And also maybe she didn't know, maybe she's leading him on and didn't make the decision she was really going to do it until just a couple days before.
Who knows?
You know what I mean?
You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot at play here. But then we learn like, because everyone's like, assuming he's pulling all the strings. He's doing this. But we hear the phone calls and like, no, she was in on it as much, if not more than him.
And we start to see it because they're like, she knew how they would track her. So she was trying to be smart about sort of getting ready for this trip.
We were able to look at some receipts over the year leading up to this escape. She would go to a Walmart to buy groceries. And when she bought groceries, she would buy one piece of camping equipment at a time. She was concealing the purchases that she was making.
One item at a time.
That's patience.
So it wouldn't be noticed.
That's patience. And just like you said, until the last 60 seconds.
Yeah, right.
But she was also buying guns. Casey is telling her where to go buy the guns. He goes, go inside Dick's, see if they got a 44 Magnum 6-inch barrel. And I'm like, it sounds like she's on the phone with him in the parking lot.
Right.
That's what it sounds like to me.
I mean, she buys an assault rifle. Like, that is just crazy.
Yeah.
So they're thinking, like, they went to the woods somewhere to live off the grid.
Yeah, the plan is to run away, live deep in the woods in a cabin that they build themselves. And as Casey says on one of these thousands of calls, kill anyone who comes within 300 yards of them.
Like, does anybody understand how impossible that would be?
It's impossible.
She's a 56-year-old woman. We don't know his age necessarily, but he's, like, not building a fucking cabin.
No.
You know what I mean?
And the thing is, another thing that doesn't happen overnight is building a cabin. So what are you going to do in the meantime?
That's not a thing that happens ever.
Right.
Like, no one is, you have to know how to do that. You can't just, what are you going to, you have to chop down 87 trees.
Yes. And even if you know, that's the thing, even if you know how to do it, it. It takes a couple, at least a few weeks.
How long do you think it takes to build a cabin in the woods? You know what I mean?
If you're good, like a
if
month?
you and I were in the woods, how long would it take us to build a cabin?
I can't,
I can't even
the
imagine.
limit does not exist. It just
Exactly.
wouldn't.
I can't imagine with like the tarp that they give you on Survivor building the
Alone?
fucking shelter.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
By
mean? Out of
yourself?
palm fronds.
Yeah.
Like, no one's building it's such an obvious pipe dream. It's such an obvious non-reality fantasy
it's
that they're living
world. And so Vicky ditches her work car. And then she ditched her personal car like 30 miles away.
Yeah.
And because it's 2022, we have the cameras from the prison. And again, like we've seen so many times recently in like newly made documentaries, we can track her from store to store, ATM to ATM. We know all of her movements.
After going through several days of footage there at the store, that's when we discovered Vicky walking by the camera. She's wearing a hat. She's wearing sunglasses.
And we also saw her out in the far part of the parking lot around a small SUV that was either orange or red. That's all we knew.
And, she just had bad luck that the camera was able to see where she goes to get into the new car. So she's
Clear as day,
dropping off her existing car, getting into her new car. Now, this idiot has bought a bright orange SUV.
It's not like a red pickup truck. It's like an orangey.
No, it's like a burnt orange. It's a beautiful color. It's the kind of car I would get, but it's like you're trying to blend in, girl. Get a Honda.
Right. So, so when you go to the dealer, it's like, oh, that orange one that I like. You just remember it.
Oh, the burnt orange one nobody else wants.
Yeah,
great.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Like when Ashley had her yellow VW Bug. It's like everyone like, oh, you see her coming 10 blocks away.
It's as though she walked into the dealer and was like, I definitely didn't just break my boyfriend out of prison, but if I did, what is the most recognizable car you could sell me?
Good old burnt orange over there.
Good old burnt orange.
You know?
By the way, he's 9 feet tall, so you have a sunroof his head can stick out of.
And they're like, what? We can actually.
Essentially a giraffe.
For an extra down payment of $300 more. I don't know. So it's an orange Ford Edge,
Can we
that
get a
means
lot
anything
of
to you.
tree trunks in there? Because we're going to build a cabin in the woods if anybody asks.
But we can't have GPS.
No GPS. Also, we have to pay in cash.
Yeah. Also,
oh my God.
Yet
no
another
reason. No reason.
Yet another person who's like, not a single suspicious thing. Totally normal day.
It was such an easy day at the dealership.
Like,
you know what I mean?
What?
Didn't meet a single interesting person.
Yeah.
Not a single weird question.
They paid in really crisp, brand new bills. Nothing suspicious at all. This is where we're getting like the phone calls dropped in.
Yeah.
So Casey says on one of these phone calls he wants to marry Vicky, and her response is to laugh in his face over the phone. But then it's like, now, like, we know who this guy is anyway. He hates women. He's very violent. He's a murderer. But then it sort of gets into him saying like, just don't give any other guy any attention in front of me. And as long as you never do that, I swear I can work on everything else. Now, the first thing, that's just shitty on its face, right? But when a guy says that, it's like his perception of attention.
Because I was thinking, like, are you not allowed to talk to the clerk who's ringing you up at the grocery store?
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's not like he's saying, like, just don't make out in front of me. Like, Vicky will get in trouble for being nice to the drive-thru guy.
Yes.
Because it's this murderer's perception of attention.
Yes. I had the exact same moment of pause. Like, wait, you're agreeing to never talking to another male human being? I know.
And I'm like, now, Vicky, is it a situation? I'm not like discounting any of her blame.
Right.
But at this point in their relationship, I don't know when in the 2 years this call was she just like flirting back because this isn't going to go anywhere and this is fun to get attention from a powerful guy?
That's what I'm thinking too. That like, at what point was she like, you know what? Fuck yeah, I'm actually going to do this.
And like, it's still wrong for her to be like, you're still, oh my God. I know. Should we have a spring wedding? Or like, that's still shitty.
At our cabin?
He's violent against women.
I know.
Do you know, like, the reason he's in prison is because he tried to kill 2 women and he killed a dog. Like, at the very least, like, what is wrong with you?
I'm sorry. I just have to like take a quick detour and say like, we're like, no one's ever going to build a log cabin in the woods. That's insane. Remember the guy from the bank robbery one that built that 7-story townhouse in a tree?
Well, I was assuming you were talking specifically about us. Right. Like, we're definitely not doing that. But it's for sure possible. And it's like beautiful when it's completed.
When it's done correctly.
You know?
Yeah, a stove and a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
My God.
Amazing. Day 4.
Yeah.
On the run for 4 days. Now, everyone's interrogating all of the inmates because they're like, oh, they know everything. I'm like, it took you 4 days to talk to the guys who know everything.
I mean, and that's the kind of thing is it's like also like, I mean, I guess in prison you're never going to come forward with the truth. Like I would be naive to think that you're ever going to come forward.
You
but
can't rat and be what are you, crazy?
I know. I'm the 7-foot-tall murderer. Like no, absolutely
and we don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just saying it like maybe I shouldn't say this, but you don't know who he's friends with. You don't know who has his back. And like you don't want, I'm keeping my head down. I'm not looking at anybody.
But we also learn their meet cute. We get the origin story story of Casey and Vicky.
Is this when Tyler was talking? Because I blocked it out.
Yeah, well, this is insane if this is true.
Yeah.
Because the story that we get is that one day Vicky was walking down the hall and Casey is at the window of his cell and he says to the warden of the prison, "You have a nice ass."
And this is where it's like one female officer didn't respond, but Vicky did.
Yeah.
Vicky was charmed by this.
So according to the story, Vicky is flattered. Now, what Tyler, one of the inmates, is saying to us is like,
You got to realize her title was assistant director. You pass a note to a guard like that, you're looking at extra time, you're going to segregation, you're losing your privileges, TV, your commissary, your phone. Casey was willing to give all of that up just to be able to talk to her.
he could have gotten all of his privileges taken away. Like, if this story is true, it tells you a lot about Vicky. It tells you a lot about the whole prison situation.
Yeah, if it's true, there's no way that was their first exchange.
Right, right.
That's them getting sloppy. That's them swinging his dick around. You know, that's not, there's no way.
That was how this romance started.
No way.
I agree.
He had to put out feelers and take her temperature well before that.
Yes, I agree.
Know?
Yes.
Or she's really fucking bad at her job, and so is everybody else in this prison.
But that's the tragedy, is I don't think she is. I think that like something clicked in her, something broke in her, because she was the kind of humane person you want running these prisons.
Right.
Like, she saw them as humans. She would train the people under her to see them as humans. Like,
yeah, and that is valuable and should not be discounted.
And probably rare. And it's like something broke in her. And it's very, like, she is totally responsible for what she did.
Yeah.
But before that, I think she was good at her job.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
For 17, like, you can't fake it for 17 years.
I think you can. That's. I mean, maybe that's just my.
Just
cynicism.
looking for the one. You know what I mean?
You know, or maybe she was just getting a lot of shit from a lot of people. Maybe this was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm speculating wildly.
Wow.
Now back to Chantel, one of the coworkers in the office, and she said, she was like, you know what? Leading up to retirement, Vicky was like really letting her hair down. We were having a grand old time.
Yeah. We learned she gets invited to a sex toy party.
And Vicky decided to go, which was actually very surprising because she really didn't do a lot of social activities. And I'm like, you're gonna be there? Oh, we're gonna have a good time.
I've never seen that side of Vicky.
She's like, oh yeah, I'm getting this. I'm getting it. Okay.
And she loads up.
And what's interesting, we'll get to the sex toy party, but like, it's interesting.
I really want to get there.
Oh, we will. But it's weird because it's like, it's a fake retirement. So Vicky knew what she was doing retirement day.
Yeah.
But looking back, Chantel is like, oh, leading up to her retirement. It was never a retirement.
Yeah.
Anyway, sex toys.
Right, well, I'm just saying, like, she goes to a sex toy party and we get a description of all the different sex toys. She buys them all.
Yeah.
She really wants the leather.
One of our coworkers is like, I mean, the stuff was skimpy.
I know.
And I'm like, it's a passion party, girl. Lighten up.
They were all into it, though. Like, can you imagine a better way to blow off some steam if you're working at a prison than to go to a sex toy party?
And also because they were supporting a friend of theirs who was opening the sex store.
Yeah.
So they were going. It's like, all right, girlies.
Like
I
in
love
Alabama,
this little outing.
Great. I love it.
Was it called the Pleasure Chest? Probably.
Oh my God. I remember when I worked downtown at a restaurant across the street from the Pleasure Chest, watching Julianne Moore walk in there once.
You know what?
Julianne Moore, get it, girl. You go into the Pleasure Chest and you get whatever you want.
You know what I love about Julianne Moore? She's not even the type of person to be like, it was research. She was probably just like, hell yeah.
No, I'm here for the vibrators.
Yeah, you caught me on a good day.
Totally.
I just wanted to feel a little sexy. What's the problem?
Absolutely. Imagine you run the Pleasure Chest out in the Village and Julianne Moore walks in. Like, that's a day maker.
Yep.
You know?
And you don't even care. You just play it as cool as possible. You've seen it all.
Totally.
On 6th Avenue, those sex shops on 6th. Oh, man.
Oh, and now we get to listen to their phone sex.
Yeah.
The phone sex is just so, and like they really went on. Like the documentary really gave us a lot of it.
Yeah, but and this is like, they're just sort of ramping us up to tell us about how they were having sex in prison.
Yeah.
Real, actual sex in prison.
Vicky would take those inmates and tell them that it was yard time. All the inmates would go out with the exception of Casey.
Casey was telling us that he couldn't go out to the yard.
Casey'd say, I'm going to have a phone call with my lawyer. My lawyer's going to be video calling me. Okay, Casey. Casey's got a phone call. You're going outside.
Nobody saw her go into the cell. Like, that's crazy.
And like, they're always like, she's always the handler of this guy. She's always like, it's so dangerous. It's like a felony we learned for an officer to have sex with an inmate. It's just like, this is so bad.
And it's also just like, are they telling us the truth? Because all of the inmates are like, we knew exactly what was happening. He's like, we would come back and his clothes would be like over the little window. Like, and we couldn't go back in until she came out. Like,
and it's like, are all these people just telling the story with revisionist history? mystery so they don't get in trouble for kind of looking the other way.
They do seem genuinely surprised, but it is kind of like maybe it's just one of those environments where everyone is so busy all the time.
Maybe. And again, like you always say, we have the perspective of watching all of it.
Yeah.
Like this wasn't happening every day.
Right.
This was happening after 2 years. Maybe they only had sex once and everything just aligned.
Maybe it was late at night when nobody else was there or whatever. But it does seem. And imagine if this were a man going in to have sex with a female inmate.
We're just hearing a lot of stories, and I just don't know. I don't know, but I wasn't there, so whatever.
Well, now we get some of Vicky's backstory, and we learn that when she was younger, she married her high school sweetheart, a guy named Tommy, and they had this beautiful romance, but then drugs came into the picture. She ends up leaving him after 20 years. They say time passes, she gets engaged to another guy, and then shortly after their engagement, he is killed in a car accident.
And she never talked about it. She was just devastated.
Yeah. And they say that after that, the only things that were the constants in her life were her dog and her job.
And she loved them both.
Yeah.
And now they're both at risk.
Right.
I mean, honestly.
But truly, how could you be with a guy that killed the dog? You know that he's a fucking dog killer.
And he's just violent. He's just unsafe. And now everyone's extra scared for Vicky because with this context, knowing that she's been so, for lack of a better term, unlucky in love and had her heart broken.
Well, and that's the thing is that she's 56. She never had kids of her own. Not that you should want to or not want to. They just pointed out as maybe that's one of the reasons why she was such a good caretaker of the people in the prison.
Yeah.
Because she kind of saw them as her kids. But I don't know. When I say I think something broke in her, it was this was it. This was her opportunity to go down in a blaze of glory or something.
And that's why everyone's saying you can't be their friend because they will see something in you and exploit it. And what everyone is saying is there's a really good possibility that happened here. Maybe she said something about how, she's lonely or something. He jumped on it.
Yeah.
And then that also leads to the fact of so what is he going to do when he doesn't need her anymore?
Right.
If he's manipulating her from the beginning and he's just calling her a cougar and saying he loves her and all this stuff, when he's finally 150 miles or whatever, when he feels he's safe, what is he going to do to her?
Or even if he does love her, we hear all of this stuff about what he's like when he's on drugs and he likes to do drugs. And one night, he's just he's 6'9", 300 pounds. She's going to do something he doesn't like at some point. She's going to talk to the fucking Starbucks guy.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if his plan isn't to kill her next week, she's not safe.
Yeah, she's unsafe.
Yeah.
And she's putting other people at risk.
Yes. And so everyone is saying, well, where did they go? They're well, if our girl Vicky is in charge of this expedition, they must be trying to get as far away from here as quickly as possible.
And then we're getting just more context, just how much this was coordinated. Because the fake retirement date was set because Casey's facing a capital murder charge. And we hear her on the phone saying, don't worry, I'm going to save you. I'm going to get you out of here.
Yes.
So she was also desperately trying to get rid of things. So she sells her house at auction for half of what she could have gotten if she just put it on the market.
And it was worth $207,000.
And this is someone who needs to get rid of things quickly.
She would invite me over when she was trying to get rid of things. You want this exercise machine? Come over and get it.
It was concerning because she was getting rid of everything. My husband and I went to Vicky's house to get the tanning bed and the golf cart.
And she sold all of her shit, including her tanning bed and golf cart.
She had a golf
Vicky,
cart.
She had a tanning bed.
But friends would come over and she'd be like, Chantal, do you want this?
Do you want the tanning bed?
Giving things away.
The funny thing, too, is we see a picture of the tanning bed in her house. It was definitely given, pride of placement. It was definitely, in an area to be oh, she's got a tanning bed. Oh, my God. Did you see the golf cart?
Just do the fake tans, everyone.
I know.
Because it's really bad for you.
I did do the fake tan earlier this year when I went whitewater rafting, and I got to tell you, it looked really good.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
Don't
the
do
tanning
it.
bed. Well, I also grew up on Cape Cod, the land of the tanning bed. Is
that right?
I mean, I can't prove that tanning beds were invented on Cape Cod, but I'd be shocked if they weren't.
Oh my
we used
God.
to go tanning all the time. My sister worked at a tanning place.
Oh my God.
It was in every gym. You could also go tanning. It was
my God.
crazy.
It's just bad for you, and I want everyone to live forever, so just don't do that. I just get worried
Everyone?
for you. Not everyone.
Okay.
I'm talking to you, dear listener.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Again, very context clues, everyone.
But we also learned that she had been planning this for a long time. She had access to everything. There was basically lost and found for IDs.
Yeah.
And she's going in there taking out IDs. Do you have anything for a guy that's about 6'7", 300 pounds? She was looking for IDs for him and for her.
And I feel in this situation, people would be like, oh, you mean someone who looks like Casey? And she'd be like, yeah.
Oh, I guess so. I hadn't even thought about about that.
But yeah, if I had to think of something, I mean, kind of.
Yeah, in fact, the closer to looking like that guy, the better.
Yeah, but for no other reason.
Have you seen my tanning bed?
Yeah. Do you want it?
Totally.
Day 5, this is now all over the news. Like, Dog the Bounty Hunter is here.
I know.
To talk about it on the news. But then we get another phone call, and Vicky watches her true crime.
Yes,
or
she's
at
a
least
true crime
like
girly.
true crime adjacent, because she's watching Love After Lockup.
Watching Love After Lockup.
Oh, Lord. Don't watch that show. There's some real piece of shit on there. You know I'm not one of them.
TV show, I know. It's just, it never turns out good.
Yeah, I know.
Put stuff in your head.
I mean, I think exactly what it sounds
it's
like.
People like reuniting with their loved ones after having been incarcerated.
Or what whatever.
Yeah.
So Casey's like, don't watch that trash. Also, I'm not like those guys.
I'm not like that at all.
Says
I'm great.
the murderer.
Says the murderer.
Now, Vicky, this is an interesting little ooh, are these second thoughts?
Yeah.
Because Vicky says, yeah, I know. It's just like, I'm watching and like not a single episode has ever ended well.
You can hear the hesitation in her voice.
And she says it's putting thoughts in my
Yes,
head.
you can hear it. Like, even when she's talking to him, like, they have fights and you hear it, and you can hear her saying to herself, girl, what are you doing?
And he always says, don't think about it. Don't think about it. Put those thoughts right out of your head. Your pretty little head.
You're
Don't
so
even...
beautiful. You're my queen. You're my like all of the love bombing
Why
shit.
don't you watch a cooking show? Don't have to watch that crime stuff, baby.
Also, like, watch a cooking show. You know what I mean?
Come on. So, day 7, like, no real progress. No
They
news.
could be anywhere. Now, Vicky does know enough that, like, they can't track them, right? Because they don't have any cell phones. They don't have any credit cards. Like, they could be anywhere.
We're just looking for this orange truck, right?
Yeah.
And so they finally get a tip about the orange truck.
Yes.
It's been ditched in Tennessee, and everyone's like, great, we're still a full week behind, but let's head to Tennessee and check out this truck.
My favorite thing is they get there and they can see that these idiots had tried to spray paint it. Like, can you imagine how mad he was when she brought the new car and it's a bright, burnt orange, like, stands out like a sore thumb? Like, they tried to spray paint it. It looks ridiculous.
And it was a bad, because one of her friends
the
is
only
like,
way the car could be more conspicuous would be like with like the panels of spray paint that they put on it.
Or
you
one
know?
of those things where it's like the LED lights where it's just like Casey and
Totally.
Vicky
Killer
on the
on board.
run.
Yeah.
Like, but honestly, like wanted for capital murder.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no.
When you see the images of this like partially spray painted car, it is as though I am in charge of this operation.
Well,
Patrick, what should we do? Spray paint it, you guys. Spray paint it.
To that point.
Yeah.
I hate to say.
Oh, no.
Her friends are like,
The spray painting, I mean, who's not going to notice that? You can tell where he's taken over. It starts becoming scattered.
that's when things start to become scattered.
Yes.
And it's true.
Yes.
Because again, up until the last 60 seconds when they were walking out of prison and she broke her own cardinal rule of letting the killer walk behind you. Everything was meticulous.
For 2 years.
And patient.
Yes.
And now we're spray painting the orange truck. Like things have gone off the rails.
I cannot look up these pictures. This car looks, you would think you just spray painted it's going to look like a different color. No, that's not how spray paint works.
And this is when Chantel goes, well, that's what happens when you plan an escape with a roommate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you hated her. Everyone hated her.
I know. But they're saying like they're fucking up and it's only a matter of time. Like, we're going to get them.
And this is like, again, like the honeymoon phase was the, oh my God, it's sexy and wrong and forbidden thing for 2 years. But also they were fighting for 2 years too.
Yes.
Because they'd fight a lot. We have 1,000 phone calls.
I mean, like, especially about him doing drugs, because he would do drugs, get paranoid, get violent, get crazy. And it's like, Vicky, this is your future. You think he's going to do less drugs on the outside? Girl, no.
And also, Vicky has experience with this.
Yeah.
The first love of her life. That
Yes.
relationship ended because of drugs. So, like, you're an asshole. I mean, you're a murderer. You're an asshole for a lot of reasons. But, like, this is an important thing for her.
Yes.
And he doesn't give a shit.
And he keeps saying, like, will you forgive me? Will you? And you can hear the resignation in her voice. She says, I will forgive you because I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Which is...
You know what I mean?
Just bad.
I know.
It's a bad way to communicate with anyone you love, friend, relationship, or anything.
Wild to me that there wasn't that one friend she opened up to about the plan from the beginning who could have talked some sense into her, because it is more evidence that she had to have known that this was a suicide mission, because she didn't tell anybody. Like, I cannot believe that this probably smart person thought that they were going to get away with this and ride off into the sunset. Like, it just, like, because you can hear it in her own voice in these calls where she's just like, I'm too far in to turn back now. Like, now what do I do?
I know.
You know? Because he would have killed her. If she changed her mind and she kept her job, but ended the relationship with him, he would have killed her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, Vicky, what was her end game? Because she was patient. She was smart. She knew about the GPS. She knew to go to Walmart and take a duffel bag. And then 6 months later, like she knew.
Even though that was the first thing the U.S. Marshals looked for.
Of course.
You know?
But she knew enough to like play the game in a certain way. So I just wonder, like, if she had a long time to marinate on this, if this wasn't an overnight thing, like, or was she brainwashed by him and herself too? Where it's just like, how does this end?
How does this end?
Really?
Maybe she was just in so deep that she just didn't see her way out of it. Like, that has to be it.
And I'm not excusing anything she did. She put a lot of people at risk.
Of course.
I'm just trying to get into the psyche of like, how does this end?
Right. And especially because now we get even more about like how sloppy they were getting, right? That they would like, he would order commissary and then she'd bring commissary for the entire cell.
Because like jailbreak day is approaching and everyone's looking back with the hindsight. And it's like she was really stressed.
Vicky and I were coming out cell 8-1 where Casey was at. I can't stand that mother neither. And I was like, okay. I never heard her swear before until she said that about Casey.
She's like super pissed off a lot. And it's like, girl, you're cruising towards retirement,
I know.
right? You should be happy as a clam, as they say.
Absolutely.
Why are you tense and snapping at people? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So a coworker tells us a story. I don't know. You might think it's charming. I don't know. But Vicky's acting very off, right?
Yeah.
And Vicky is saying like, oh, I'll just go to the doctor. And this coworker goes, are you done?
I know.
Like real Southern. She goes, are you done?
Are you done?
And Vicky's like, no, girl, I'm not dying. And the coworker's like, I'm not kidding, Vicky. If you're
It's not
dying,
funny.
you got to tell me, are you done? And Vicky's like, I'm serious, girl. I'm not dying.
I know.
But that's how bad it.
I just fell in my chair. It's been a while.
It's been a long time.
Since I fell in my chair. Sorry.
But that's how off she was.
Yeah.
People are literally, are you done? How off
Are you
your
done?
game? How off your game?
How off your
must
game?
you be to
I
get
know.
you done? And then like no, and then
I could watch you do that all day long. Are you done?
because she asked
Yeah.
multiple times.
Yeah.
To ask the question once is like something is very wrong. And then, no, girl, I'm not dying. Are you dying?
I'm suddenly.
That sounds like something a dying person would say. What are you doing? And you're giving everything away? You're giving.
But that's the thing, too. Yes. Because, well, okay, I have two things to say. Number one, I'm desperate to see you in a production of Steel Magnolias. I didn't know you had that accent in you, but now that I know, I got to see it.
I'm sorry, everyone who has that accent. I say it with love. My dear friend, Cara Rachel Dane from South Carolina. I love all of you.
But also, like, this is a thing that we know that people who are going to die by suicide also do. They give all their shit away because they don't need it. It's one of the warning signs they say to look for.
Oh, God.
I know. And that's what I'm saying was that more and more this feels like a suicide mission to me.
It just feels, it's like, it feels like it's a lot.
So, okay, so now it's 3 days before the escape. We learned they did a dry run.
This is crazy.
This is insane. And so, like, it's the same thing where she, like, gets the other officers to bring him to the place where she goes and gets him. Nobody asks any questions.
Because it's Vicky's doing it. It's okay.
But it's also 3 days before the thing goes down and she's doing that thing where she's walking in front of him again. Nobody's noticing, or if they are, nobody's saying anything.
Because it's Vicky.
And we know this because we see the surveillance video.
Yeah. And remember, we heard at the beginning, the buck stops with her.
Yeah.
Anything you need, she's in charge. And she really leaned into that so that if anything looks a little weird, you know what, it's Vicky, there's got to be
Yeah,
like no one thought twice.
Yep, absolutely. They're gone for 9 minutes and 30 seconds. So like they just wanted to experience what it would be like to be in the car, having the time to know that no one's looking for them, drive to the courthouse, go wherever they're going to go, come back. They were only gone for 9 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's a long time.
Well, it is, but like my point is just that like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like they go, they come back. What is my point? My point is just to say that, like, they could have been gone for 3 hours because, like, she's with him on an official visit or whatever. But they come back and there are patrol officers bringing people in through the booking area, which is where she would have to bring him back in. But she can't because they will know that she's now broken protocol.
So she's got to come up with something quick. So instead of going through the booking area, she brings Casey in through a side door, avoiding booking altogether. And Casey is taken straight to his cell, bypassing the deputies there altogether.
And we see other people seeing her sneak him in the side door.
Yeah.
It's like, how many people are looking the other way when Vicky does whatever she wants?
And they do say it was a little weird, but if Vicky's, there's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
If she's doing it, there has to be a reason.
But it's like, okay, can we learn from this? Can everybody be held accountable for their actions?
And it shouldn't be, if protocol is protocol, then it should be protocol.
Yes.
It should be protocol unless the person in charge does it.
Totally.
That's like abuse of power.
Yes.
So stop.
100%. So we're at day 10 of the manhunt, and they get another break. They hear from a man who had been selling vehicles out of his yard, and he says that Casey bought a Ford F-150 truck from him. And so now they know what car they're in now. It's a Ford F-150 truck. They get the VIN number, they put it into the VIN Google machine, and they get all the details on the truck.
Which means that they know they ditched the orange one.
Yes.
So day 11, we're in Indiana, a guy notices a car parked at his car wash. No one's in the car, but the keys are in the ignition.
And the car is like in a washing station.
Right,
It wasn't like just parked in a parking space. It was like in a washing
with
station.
the keys in it.
With the keys in it.
But the license plate says Tennessee. Remember, we knew they got the orange truck in Tennessee.
Yes.
Like, we're off and running.
Yes.
But this guy calls the police and the media because he wants his 15 minutes.
He calls the media on himself. It's wild.
And which is, it's frustrating to the cops because if Casey and Vicky are watching the news, they know everything the cops know.
Well, and so they get to the car wash and they pull the surveillance video, and these people are so stupid. They see them ditching the truck in the washing station and getting into a gray Cadillac. So now they know they're driving a gray Cadillac.
The best footage we've ever had from any security camera ever.
I mean, A+ across the board. Yeah.
Consistently. But now I'm thinking, how are they only 289 miles away from where they started? It's been 11 days.
And they were saying that, like, they weren't trackable because they weren't in a car that they knew of the GPS. They didn't have cell phones. They could have been as far away as Anchorage, Alaska, they say. If they had driven 700 miles a day, which is doable, they could be as far away as Anchorage, Alaska.
What are they doing?
What are they doing?
I'll tell you what they're doing. And everyone pull over. I cannot believe we're here again because they tracked down the car at a motel.
We learned that a pizza company had delivered pizza to room 150. The delivery driver was able to identify both Casey and Vicky.
Once again, the plan is foiled by Domino's. I can't believe it. Bad
Domino's
vegan,
will save us all.
That fucking
I know.
affluenza kid.
Yep.
And now this. And don't say pizza's pizza. Now, they always say pizza. They don't really say Domino's in these docs.
Yeah.
We see a picture of the motel room. It's Domino's.
Is
again.
that right?
It's not just the local pizza joint in Indiana. It is Domino's.
Everyone loves Domino's. It is.
When they're on the run, it just hits different, I guess.
It's the great equalizer.
When you're in a shit, and it's always a shitty motel.
Yep.
They're always on the run.
Yeah.
Bad vegan, affluenza, and these people.
Tell
and
me a better comfort food than Domino's with ranch. There isn't one.
I cannot.
I know.
That smell is like coming home.
Oh my God, and you're feeling the Parmesan crust. You know that eventually you're going to get through the slice of the crust, and that's going to be even better.
And don't cover, because all pizza is pizza, okay?
Yeah.
So New York style pizza is delicious, different from Detroit pizza, also delicious, different from
There's
Domino's,
a great
also
Detroit
delicious.
slice place on 23rd and 7th if you're ever looking for one. It's called Detroit
Great.
Pizza.
I love it. That's the grandma slice.
Yes,
Give me a break.
I know.
Like all pizza's pizza, Chicago pizza, delicious.
Yeah.
It's all like.
It's
can
all
we,
great.
can we like give up the pizza fight?
I was never in it.
Great.
I'm not,
I don't know
I'm
why
not
we're
engaging
arguing.
in that.
Because they're all different. They're apples and oranges, but
Yeah.
they're also still pizza.
I was going to say the same is true for bourbon, but that's actually not true. There is bad bourbon.
Great.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Knob Creek, for example, not a fan. Go for a Woodford. Get a Eagle Rare if you're doing something fancy.
You love Eagle Rare.
I love
Yeah.
Eagle Rare. Buffalo Trace. If you want something that's like a regular price, Buffalo Trace, like $40 for a bottle.
Great.
Make it last.
Okay. Domino's is great, though.
Follow me for more bourbon
Yeah, I
tips.
was going to say, back to the Domino's. I'm not a bourbon gal myself. But again,
Is that true? We got to work on that. I feel like you'd love bourbon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
I've tried it. I don't.
We can get you there, though.
But okay.
It's because you're not trying hard enough.
Like, what? Pass the Domino's.
Yeah.
So, and the pizza delivery person who we all watch on the tracker and
Yeah.
we love doing it confirms that he delivered the pizza to room 150. The people in room 150 are Vicky and Casey.
Yes. So now this is like a very dangerous situation because the cops know where Vicky and Casey are, but Vicky and Casey don't yet know that the cops know.
We know they have guns.
We know they have guns. We're anticipating a shootout. They're trying to keep everything fucking cool. They get an armored tank there and helicopters, but no.
At that moment, one of the Evansville guys calls out, "Hey, there's a female coming out."
The suspects from Alabama.
Casey and Vicky quickly realized that they were being followed.
Casey and Vicky run out of the motel room, jump in the car.
They know they're being followed.
I'm pretty sure Vicky is now wearing a wig because
Yes.
she
Oh,
has
yes.
blonde
Yes.
hair, and now in this footage she does not.
Yep.
She's a brunette now. And the chase is on, and it is immediately clear that Casey and Vicky do not have a plan.
No.
They don't have a plan.
And it's so wild because we see all the dash cam video from this. It is like every single car in this town chasing this one car.
And this one car is driving in circles. When I say they don't know what they're doing.
Well, and then further to not knowing what they're doing, they accidentally call 911, and so they don't even know they did it, and their entire conversation is recorded.
And the cops...
It's as though the documentary crew did that on purpose.
And the thing that's bizarre about this is the cops are like, we don't know how that happened.
Yes.
Because it wasn't through OnStar.
Right.
It wasn't through the car.
So,
like, Vicky called 911 somehow.
This is my question. Does Vicky now know what's happening? And it's like, is she afraid he's going to kill her, so she's secretly called 911 and he doesn't know?
I don't think that would be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like no one is talking to 911. It appears that no one knows they called 911, but it wasn't an accidental button push from the car either.
And we hear their conversation.
Vicky.
Yeah, and she's screaming at him.
Guys, we're going home. The police station is up in the hotel. Let's get out. Go on.
She's terrified. He's cool, calm, and collected.
She's saying, like, we should have stayed at the hotel. Like, so now it is, I mean, it really is chaos. Eventually, the cops run them off the road and into a ditch.
Yeah.
And they have lost control of the car. Vicky is talking about how the airbags are going to kill them. Like, she's worried about how dangerous it is to be in this car. We should have stayed at the hotel. And you hear Vicky say, let's get out and run.
Yes.
And there is this is really hard, everyone. We are not going to play the audio of this because it's fucking disgusting. And they played 1,000 times. Shame on you, Netflix.
Yeah.
There's a major crash, and then we hear a gunshot.
But it's wild because we hear Vicky scream and then a gunshot.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you're like, how did this happen? Now, we're just hearing it from this 911 call that Vicky may or may not have made.
Right. And so the next thing we see, they pull Casey out of the car. He's fine. He's got some scratches. His ear hurts,
It's
whatever.
always the way.
And he's like
screaming about his wife. Where's my wife? Where's my wife?
Right. And they're yelling at him to shut up
They're
about
like,
the
we
wife.
are, man. Chill.
I mean, literally. They go back and get her, and they say, we don't know what happened to Vicky at this point. They're saying she was still breathing. She's unconscious. There's blood everywhere. There's obviously like a major head wound. They send Vicky off to the hospital. They take Casey to the hospital. We go with Casey to the hospital. We see Casey in the hospital. And then we get the announcement that like Vicky dies.
She dies soon after being brought to the hospital.
Yeah.
Now, I assumed that it was from the impact, that it was the crash. But again, now it's like, with that gunshot.
But we heard the gunshot.
So we are told that they are telling us, like, definitively, that Vicky was driving the car, but also shot herself. And she shot herself after they'd been caught. However,
the shot was almost to the back of the head. It was a very strange placement. It almost seemed more like a accidental, a very unique trajectory for a intentional suicide.
I don't think she shot herself.
I mean, from the evidence that we were given in this documentary, it does not seem like she shot herself.
And even the people who believe that she did are saying it's a very unique trajectory for an intentional suicide.
Right. Now, it could be that her arms were pinned in a weird way, and maybe this was her plan the whole time. I'm just saying I have a lot of questions here.
I would understand why she would.
Yes, of course.
But I don't know if she did.
Because like I was saying throughout, like there's a lot of things that sort of point to what some people do when they're going to die by suicide, giving away all their stuff. And the fact that she's a corrections officer. Mm-hmm. There's no way that she ever could have thought they were going to get away with this.
Yeah, I'm so confused because we were asking earlier, like, how does this end? What's the end game?
Right. Because like going into the woods and building a log cabin is
that's not it.
And I can't believe that she believed that they were going to do that.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's kind of shitty editing where they're just talking about like, and then we'll go to Paris and then we'll do this.
Right.
But I don't know why they didn't travel as far as they could have in these 11 days. She wasn't in any control. She was in control for so much of it in the 2 years leading up to it. And then she's like, we should have stayed at the hotel. Like she lost, once they were out of this controlled environment in prison, everything went to shit.
Yes. Which was always what was going to happen.
Always.
You know what I mean? There was no way that wasn't going to Also, like, he's a 7-foot-tall, 300-pound man. Like, they probably can't just be out in daylight. You know what I mean?
All over the news. Dog the Bounty Hunter's here.
Yeah.
But like, how did she not plan a single second post jailbreak?
Right.
She planned so much of it.
Yeah.
For so long. cautiously and with patience. And then the minute they're out, it's like all hell breaks loose.
And I gotta say, like, I take umbrage with how this documentary ends because they want us to look at this as some sort of tragic star-crossed love story.
Now, obviously, Casey's back in prison. Let's just say that. But yeah, like, that's what I mean. The trailer is so different because according to the trailer, everyone was like, this is so fucked. And then at the end, it's like...
Even all her friends are like...
She got what she wanted, and that was time with him.
Vicky felt sorry for him. And then a love grew. She gave him 11 days of freedom.
They had 11 beautiful days together.
They
did not.
And like, again, what she did is horrifying, put a lot of people in danger. Was he just abusing her the whole time?
Right. Or like, was it just miserable? Like, even if he wasn't abusing her,
like,
as soon as you're confronted with the reality of what this is not going to be, and like, she didn't give herself up.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is not Love Story Taylor's version. It is not.
And somebody was saying that like, she knows what prison is. She worked in one for 17 years. There's no way that she was going to let herself go to prison, which I guess does go to the suicide theory. But like, there's a lot of questions.
I have a lot of questions. And like, they're all saying that Vicky really loved Casey, but he didn't give a shit about her.
Yeah.
And then it kind of ends. I just don't, I have questions.
Same.
I have so many. But it ends with the on-screen text of saying that Casey White was charged with escape in the first degree and indicted on felony murder for causing the death of Vicky White.
Explain that to me. But I thought she died by suicide.
But
you know what I mean?
Right. So are they using it as... Well, because of his actions.
But her death certificate cannot say suicide and then charge him for the murder.
Right.
Unless it's a manslaughter thing where he's responsible for the death because he put her in that. So, I don't know.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
And they said she was driving.
Right.
So it's not like he forced her in the car, right?
I don't know, girl.
But Casey White's going to rot in prison for the rest of his life.
Okay.
Fuck this guy.
One good thing to come out of this whole thing. Oh my God.
Hate him.
Oh my God, girl, we did, what's it called?
It's called Jailbreak, Love on the Run. That's the thing. Fuck you, Netflix. Is it love? Is it love?
Or maybe it is, but like, but it's also
not.
manipulation on the run.
I feel manipulated a little bit.
You know where you're not going to feel manipulated?
What?
This Friday at Drag Bingo.
Okay, you know what?
That's it.
Talk about love.
Yes, she's going to save us. Like, come join us. Anybody at the $5 tier and above. Drag Bingo this week. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited. And participate as much or as little as you want.
Yeah.
No pressure. You can have your camera off. It's all good. It's all, yeah, it's actually loving.
My last question to you is, have you joined the Facebook group yet? Because it's so great. It's the True Crime Obsessed podcast discussion group. I highly recommend you go and join. Highly moderated by Sasha. It's a very safe, fun, cool place to make new friends. Just sort of like learn what's going on and like share your true crime stuff and whatever you want to share.
And where to like share your thoughts. Like, what do you think?
I would desperate to know what you think
about this?
Fam, tell us your thoughts.
It's so
oh my God.
complicated.
Fam, I got to remind you one more time, we've got new merch. The Patreon pre-sale for said merch launches tomorrow, November 13th. So anybody on the Patreon at $5 or above will get an email sent to you around that time with access and the access discount code.
Right. And then the general sale is what, the 18th?
Monday the 18th, it goes on sale for everybody.
Fantastic.
So just keep that in mind. New merch. We're very excited.
Okay.
Girl, what are we doing next?
The complication never stops. Sweet Bobby, my catfish nightmare.
I saw you and Natalie talk about this on Slack today. I listened to the podcast, so I haven't watched this yet.
I went in totally cold.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything.
It's wild.
My jaw was on the ground.
The stories that are out there are just
Holy
insane.
shit.
Yeah. All right, so fam, stay tuned for the trailer for Sweet Bobby. And we love you.
We love you.
Okay,
Stay
bye.
safe out there, everyone. We love you.
Stay safe.
We
And
love
you know what? If you work in a prison, don't break people out. Just don't do it.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Unless they deserve it. And
Right.
in which case...
In which case, call us. People will help
it's
you.
still complicated, but I love you.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.
What happened to me is just one crazy story. You can't make it up. We're talking about 10 years of my life. I was 32, very focused on my career. All my friends are getting married, and I just felt, when's it going to be my turn? One day, I get a friend request from Bobby.
I've never spoken to her in my life.
I want answers. What I find so elaborate, so huge.
It's just unbelievable.
Profiles disappear. I'm terrified. You don't know what they're capable of. This is sickening. What was a lie? What was the truth? Who was the real Bobby? All of this time, who have I been sleeping on the phone with?